Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us here once again at Prophecy DeFi's channel. We are sitting here with special guest Guy Etlin, and we're going to be diving into the Layer 2 system today. But first off, Guy, how are you doing? And can you give people just a little bit about your background and how you got wound up involved with the Prophecy DeFi team?
Sure, I'm doing well, thanks. I hope you are too. I found my way to Prophecy DeFi through a good friend of mine introduced me to John, and I was just taken by what they're doing in the DeFi space, how they're approaching it, and most importantly, how they're giving investors of all walks of life, retail investors and institutional investors, this unique access to this fast-growing industry. And yeah, that was motivation enough for me to jump right in and get to work with them. I've been in a DeFi, in the crypto space since 2017. So that's kind of my background coming into this. And yeah, I think DeFi is by far the most interesting sector of what's going on in crypto at the moment. So I'm excited to talk to you about this today.
Wonderful. So let's dive into it then. Tell us about the Layer 2 team, what it is they do, and so on.
Yeah, so Layer2 blockchain, the company Layer2, is Prophecy DeFi's first acquisition. So it's important here to differentiate between the company name Layer2 and the actual concept, so to speak, of the second layer of the blockchain. So that's what we call Layer2 blockchain as well. So just to avoid confusion here for the purposes of this interview, we're going to say that there's a second layer to the blockchain, and then there's Layer2 blockchain, the company. So Layer2 blockchain, the company, is a team of people that specializes in developing on that second layer of the blockchain. And what that means is basically developing applications and use cases for this technology that just speed things up a lot and make things a lot more efficient, and kind of gets around the problem of gas fees and the problem of scalability of the Ethereum network right now, which is where most applications are developed on. So Ethereum is something that a lot of people will have heard of, but Layer2, the second layer of the blockchain, really builds on top of that. So there's that second layer. And so what Layer2, the company, does is build, is find interesting ways to create value in that ecosystem and really generate outsized returns through unique trades, which we can dive into in just a second.
Yeah, so yeah, of course, Ethereum, as everybody knows, is very fee heavy right now, and it's good that the companies are coming up with ways or extra layers to get around a lot of those fees. And can you then dive into how does it achieve returns that, say, a regular person getting into crypto or maybe doing some crypto trading could not really achieve on their own?
100%, yeah. Well, there's a number of different ways in which Layer2 generates value, but just to give one concrete example, just recently we're looking at a trade where value is getting created through liquidity provisioning. So basically putting capital into new and exciting projects, into new protocols. And so the way that will concretely work is, for example, in this case, the Layer2 team identified an interesting project, an interesting team that they think has a lot of potential. And what they'll do is they'll look at the code base. They'll take a close look at the risks involved, whether the capital is going to be put to good use. And that alone is something that requires incredibly deep technical knowledge. But it's not just a technical knowledge, it's also the industry insights that differentiates Layer2. These people have been there from literally almost day one of this technology. And so they really understand it unlike anyone else. And so with that knowledge and with those connections, they'll be able to look at a project. They'll say, okay, this has potential. We're the earliest people in this project. And so what they'll do is, if everything looks good on the code base, they'll put capital in, they'll create that, they'll provide that liquidity. And from there, it's not just about the money, it's also about the marketing introductions. Of course, with the capital now, that new projects can scale very rapidly, and that alone will lead to very high yields. But it's not just the money, it's also those industry connections, those insights that really differentiates Layer2 from most other people out there, because they'll be able to provide marketing introductions. They'll be able to actually help the company scale in ways that it otherwise couldn't. And so with all those factors combined, you're looking at very, very rapid growth and therefore very outsized returns in very short periods of time. And between that and just the general growth of this industry sector as a whole, these returns are really quite fantastic. And it's with a combination of all these factors that allows them to, do trades in a way that just, if you don't have that specialized knowledge, there's just no way you could do it on your own.
Yeah, I think it's important that while early rounds of fundraising, seeds, IPOs, and such have proven to be pretty profitable, it's important to have a strong team performing really quality risk analysis when it comes to this. So your average Joe would not have access to that on their own, but Layer2 does. So is there anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to share about Layer2 before we go?
No, I mean, you kind of like, hit the nail on the head there. What we kind of like to compare it to is, imagine if you had access to every IPO on NASDAQ for a whole year. Imagine the returns if you were the first one to buy those IPOs every single day, new company IPOs. And, that is something that regular investors just don't have access to.
Mhm.
And as such, they're missing out on a lot of potential returns. And so just apply that same concept to DeFi. That's what's going on here. So, if you had a chance to, if you have a chance to invest with Prophecy DeFi and therefore with Layer 2, and that's basically the kind of access that you're getting. And so that's really quite unique. It's a very special situation we find ourselves in. And we're really excited to be working with Layer 2 on that front.
Wonderful. Well, Guy, thank you so much for the information about Layer 2. If anybody wants any more, don't be afraid to ask any questions. We'll happily dive into them. But for now, stay tuned and we'll get you some more news over the wire as soon as it comes in. Guy, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks so much. Cheers.